Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Effective Resume Thursday. We're very glad you're with us today. It is September 1st, 2022. Hard to believe we're 2/3 of the way through the year already. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. If you'd like to network with other people who are on the call today, feel free to put your contact information in the chat window. For those on Zoom, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just use the chat window. For those watching on Facebook, please just enter your questions in the comment field. We are monitoring both feeds. We'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. We will review 1 or 2 resumes live today at the end of this session. You're welcome to submit your resume using the chat box. So if you open the chat box at the very bottom where you see that little thing that says file, you click on that. You can go find your resume, attach it, send it to me, send it to Jeff Morris Host. I know there's 2 of us on here, but send it to Jeff Morris Host and I'll get it and we'll do it. If you want to delete your header information, I recommend you do so before you submit your resume because your information will be published. You know, this video will be on Facebook and YouTube forever and ever and ever. So, you know, delete your header information, just keep your information private and we'll take a look at your resume. We'll do 1 or 2 of those at the end of this session. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org. I started a second website, careerusa.org, in 2012. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon, or if you happen to see me in person, I usually have copies with me. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. The group meets on Friday mornings. They've been meeting since the late 1990s. I took it over in 2007. I'll tell you about our upcoming program that we're having tomorrow morning at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team, also known as the PIT Crew. Your resume and your LinkedIn profile will not get you a job, but what it does do is get you a phone call. How well you practice your interviewing skills, that's what's going to get you your next job. So if you want to have a free practice interview, just reach out to dallaspitcrew.com. Oh, there we go. Just reach out to dallaspitcrew.com. I always forget about that one. Okay, our agenda today, we're going to look at a couple different things. Let me switch presentations here. So first thing we'll do is we're going to look at the ATS system. Then we're going to talk about the one-page bio. We'll talk about a master resume, the key components of a resume, and then we'll review some sample resumes if anybody would like to submit their resume at the very end. All right, so here's always a great thing. Why are you sending a resume out? You're sending a resume out so that somebody will remember you. What are you going to do to make your resume stand out? And that's what we're here to talk about today, to make sure that you know about the things that you need to do to get your resume to stand out in front of somebody. All right, so we've got some resume tips, and this is from an expert, Gail Houston, who's an executive recruiter, and she's the co-leader of the Career Transition Workshop. These are some comments when we asked her, give us your top resume tips. What do you recommend? So number 1, she said, be sure to add your customized URL link. So on your profile page, you can, on a LinkedIn profile page, you can edit your public profile to, make it very consistent. If you just use the generic one they send you, if you haven't already done this, you can go in and you can edit down and get rid of all the little 946Q-49 question mark, whatever at the very end. So, but on your resume, you should always add your URL link. And the reason you want to do that is because people are going to check you out. So make it easy for somebody to find that URL on your profile. Number 2, you want to make sure you have a professional email in the closest large city state. You don't put your address on a resume, but you do put the city, state, and zip code. And you want a professional sounding email. You don't want, Joan loves kitty cats at gmail.com. You want John Smith or Joan Smith PMP at gmail.com or something. So try to make your resume, try to make your email address as professional as possible. If you don't have two different email accounts, you probably should. One for your work, everything you do for your job search, and then one that you have for your private family and friends that you want to communicate with. Number 3, make sure you have a focus statement for the title at the top of your resume. You want to tell somebody that you're a Java front-end engineer, or you're a marketing brand manager. Whatever the job title is on the job description, if that's a job you've had in the past, that's what you want to make sure you put at the top of your resume, because you want to see your name and the job title so people can link the two together. Number 4, create an accomplished-based resume, not a tactical responsibilities. So what we're talking about here is I read a lot of resumes, and it reads just like a job description. I had to do this, 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 or this is what I was supposed to do. It doesn't tell me what you accomplished. You want goals, you want things, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but very, very important that every bullet point you have on your resume needs to have some kind of accomplishment to tell me, why should I call you? Oh, I need somebody who can increase my sales by $1 million. I need somebody who can, accomplish, fix things within, a 1-month period instead of, just letting it drag on and on. So you want to be sure to tell people accomplishments. And then number 5, be careful with formatting. You don't want the resume to be so crowded that that a recruiter can't easily read it. White space is good. Okay. If you've got more than a couple jobs, you want to have a 2-page resume, spread it out. If you need to go 3 pages, that's okay nowadays. But we'll go more into detail here about that in just a second. So let's talk about a resume versus a 1-page bio. A resume screams, help me, I'm looking for a job. A 1-page bio can be used in a lot more situations. If you're networking, which 75 to 80% of jobs are found via networking, you want to use a 1-page bio. Now, this used to be years ago, only executives did this, but now I think everybody can do this. I think it's really worthwhile, and I think it's very beneficial. You only send the resume when you've got a job description, so you know what they're looking for. A resume focuses on work history and details. A bio focuses on major accomplishments and expertise, what expertise you have, what you've done. A resume is primarily a job search tool. A bio you can use if you're speaking in front of a group, if you're networking with somebody. It's just very, very beneficial. So here's a sample. Here's one of the sample bios that we have. You notice a bio has a picture on it. You want your picture on it. And you want to make sure that your picture, if the picture is in the upper left-hand corner, make sure your shoulders are turned so you're facing into the screen and not out of the screen, because that will make a huge difference as far as the look of how it's presented. You're going to sort of say, here's a quick synopsis of who I am. You're going to have a professional biography of companies you've worked for, your education. You're going to list your contact information, make it easy for people to reach out to you. And then some professional achievements or successes. Here's a second bio that's done horizontally instead of vertically. Same basic kinds of information. Like I said, you can lay this out any way you want. The difference here is that this person has put target functions and target companies, as you see over on the right-hand side. Now, a little hint is, if you're going to list somebody's target company, if you're going to send this to somebody, better make sure that their target company is on that list. And most importantly, make sure it's the first one on the list. So this may not necessarily, maybe you'd send this to friends and family, but not to professional contacts, because professional contacts are going to go say, well, you know, I got your bio, but you don't even have my company listed as a target company. So just be very careful about that, because you want to make sure you don't want to offend anybody to do that. So 2 different bios. In fact, let me put both of them into the chat window right now so people can download them if you'd like. Let's see here. Here's bio number 1. And here is bio number 2. All right, so both those bios are in there. If you can't download it from the chat window, I'll have an email address here at the end that you can send me an email, and I'll be glad to get these to you. Okay, so like I said, a 1-page bio. This is a great book. I recommend this all the time. Minna Brown wrote this book, and Paula Asanoff, the 2 of them. This is Minna's bio. Hers is very colorful because she's an executive coach, an author, a public speaker. She uses this as a sales piece, as a marketing piece for her to get clients. So that's why it's organized a little bit differently. But the nice thing I like about this book, Be Sharp, is that in the back of the book, there are well over 30 different bios that are listed that you can get different examples, and they go into a lot of detail as far as what you want to put. Be sure if you get the book by the 2nd edition, the 1st edition only barely talked about bios. The 2nd edition, they went into a lot more detail about bios. All right, let's talk about a master resume. This is one of the things I think everybody should have. When you start your job search, no matter if you've been in just a little bit, if you've been doing this for a long, long time, I recommend that you get a master bio, a master resume. And what is a master resume? It's everything you've ever done since high school. And if you happen to do something in high school that relates to what you do now, list that job on there. And so you're going to list everything you've ever done, name of the companies, the addresses, who were your supervisors, who were your managers, 5, 10 bullet points as far as here's what I accomplished at each one of those jobs. Here's what I learned, all the details. Any certificates that you've got, any areas of expertise, any software skills, list every computer program you've ever used. Because what you can do is you never ever send this resume out, okay? This is strictly a document for you to have on your computer, so that when you're ready, when you see a job description and you're saying, okay, I'm going to send my resume into this for this company, you can take that master resume, save it as, so whatever you're naming, however you name resumes, to save those things on your computer. And then you go and delete everything that's not important, everything that's not listed on the job description, okay? Because you want to make that job description match. You want your resume to match the job description. It's just very, very important to get that match, because you never know who's going to be reading it. It could be somebody who's brand new, just out of school, who's maybe does no idea what a program manager does, but just knows that they were sold, find me somebody who can do this, and they gave them a job description. So you want to make it easy. And this makes it easy for your, as you're submitting resumes, because you don't have to think about, I think I did that 6 years ago when I was at so-and-so company. I mean, you'll have all this stuff written down now. Personally, I have a file of old resumes all the way back to the 1980s when I first started looking for a job, and I've just kept them going. But I've taken that file and accumulated and put it together into one master document to make it easy so that I can apply for a job. So some characteristics of a good resume, and the goal of a good resume is to make it easy for the ATS system or the job screener to determine that you're the candidate that they want to call. Okay, remember, your resume and your LinkedIn profile don't get you a job. They only get you a phone call. So how are you going to get that phone call? So the first thing, we always want to have a good resume. A good resume should have some decent formatting. We're going to talk about what we think is a good format, and we'll show it to you here in just a second. The second thing is your overall length. If you're a recent graduate or you've only had 1 or 2 jobs, you probably can get your resume on 1 page. If you have more than 5 to 8 years experience, then you probably need, or if you've had multiple jobs, you may need to go to a 2nd page, and you can probably go to a 3rd page if needed, but only if it's really relevant. Like I said, If they don't ask about it in the resume, in the job description, don't tell them about it. I'm sure everybody here has done a lot of really, really good things about, over their career. But if they're not asking about it, don't tell about it. So I got a little question for everybody. If you open up your chat window, the question is, how many years do you put on your resume? So I've got some options here for everybody. Number one, do you show all of your experience? B, do you show just the most recent 10 to 15 years? Or C, do I show the most recent 10 to 15 years plus a section called prior relevant experience? So if you would, in the chat window, please put A, B, or C. Anybody else want to pick A, B, or C? Nobody's picked A. So we have B's and C's. We have 2 B's and 2 C's. Come on, we need one more person to vote to break the tie. We have another C. All right. Oh, and we have another B, and now we have another C. All right. Well, so C's still ahead by 1. So it's really whatever you feel comfortable with. Do you want to show all of your experience? If you're applying for a government job or an education job, and working for a school system, working for a college or university, they tend to want to see everything you've ever done. Only showing 10 to 15 years experience, here is the problem with doing that. Personally, I like the answer C. I mean, you want to show the last 10 to 15 years plus a section prior relevant experience. And here's why. If you are in an interview and you talk about something that you did at a job and it's not listed on your resume, you will confuse the interviewer, because they'll go, well, wait, I don't see that job. I mean, where was, oh, well, that was before, I did that like 15, 18 years ago. By listing a section called prior relevant experience, and I like the term prior relevant experience, by listing it that way, you then have permission to talk about anything that you've done in the past. Okay. Now, and we'll show you how to do that on a resume. I'll show you our sample resume here in just a second. Okay, fonts for your resume. Here's some fonts I like, and a couple that I'm not really a favor of, but the fonts I really like are Arial, Calibri, Tacoma, Helvetica. I like those fonts because they're plain, they're easy to read. Times New Roman, Garamond, Calibri, not Calibri, Cambria. The thing I don't like about those fonts is that those have serifs on it. Those have the little extra markings, like on the T. It's just not a plain T. It's got T with 2 little hashes on both sides. So I like a font that's easy and clean. Arial, Calibri, Tacoma are probably my favorites. Helvetica would be okay. You want it 10 to 12 point. You want to make it easy for somebody to read. No fancy fonts. Don't put any wingdings, no special little check marks, no telephone in front of your phone number. The only icon you should be using are the little dots like you see right here. Just those dots are okay. I wouldn't use anything else, because you got to remember, if you're formatting a resume for an ATS system, you're applying for a job online, there are well over 100 different ATS systems. Every system handles stuff differently, okay? So your margin, you generally want a 1-inch right, left, top, and bottom margin. I think it's very important because you want white space. You want it, if they do print it out, remember most resumes are not printed out now, they're just looked at on a screen. That's why you want to make it easy to read. If they do print it out, you want to be able to, they have space to write any notes down or whatever. As I said, bullets, bold, you can use a little bit of bolding, you can use a little bit of underlining, but you shouldn't use a lot. I don't really recommend italicize or any shadows or any graphics. Keep your resume easy, plain to read. And you do not use any text boxes, any header, footers, or any templates, because when you do that, in many ATS systems, anything that's in a header just won't appear. So your information will go into an ATS system, and if you put your contact information in the header, they won't know who the resume is from because they won't be able to see that information. Okay. So the next thing we want to do is, what do you do to fill a gap? Many of you know now on LinkedIn, they've added things. What do you do between jobs? But the latest thing that, not the latest thing, but the thing we like to talk about is, so what have you been doing the last year? What have you been doing the last year and a half? A couple of options here is you've done some community leadership, you've done consulting. If you had a lot of, 1 month, 2 month, 3 month gig jobs over the last year or 2 years, I would put down that you've been consulting, and then list underneath in the bullet points that if you can mention a couple of what kind of roles you've been consulting for, you can go and do that. And then, that'll come up as a question if they call you for an interview. If you've done any continuing education, if you went back and got your MBA, if you went back and took classes on different topics, you're more than welcome to put that in there to show how that is. And then you want to make sure you add a few bullet points to describe your work. So if you've done consulting work, even if it's pro bono, even if it's working for a nonprofit organization, you're more than welcome to list that information. If you have any volunteer work or leadership things you've done, do that. I know several years ago, back in 2015, I was the facility manager for an event that had 1,100 kids and 350 adults who came in town. We were at 11 different venues, and I was responsible for everything that went out to every one of those venues, and everything that any of these athletes could use. It was like a mini Olympics. So, I've got a quite little extensive stories that I can tell about my successes and how many different objects I had to take care of and items. And I mean, down to basketballs, down to the little tip that you go to put into an air pump to fill up a basketball with. So, all these little things you had to think about. Any volunteer work, any leadership things you've done, any certifications, if you've gotten certifications while you've been off, you can list those kinds of things. So here's an example on how you can do that. So under professional experience, you list community, leadership, and consulting. You list the dates that you did it. In this case, this person put down, served as a panelist and a coach for the Dallas practice interview team to help job seekers with their interviewing skills. Provided consulting services to a local nonprofit organization on how to prepare and conduct job interviews and how to evaluate candidates. Chris asked, if you had a medical leave, do you mention it? I would probably say no. I wouldn't list that. I mean, if you were out for 2 years because of something extensive, the whole point, you're opening up HIPAA regulations if you want to share. If you want to share, whatever, but unless it was something really pretty extensive, most people are not out for a medical reason for a couple of years or a year. Nowadays, being laid off for a year is not a big deal. They are going to know what what was happening. You can just say, I was off for a medical issue, but everything is fine now. You always want to make sure that you always let them know that if that's what you use, but I'm 100% healthy now, I'm ready to go back to work. Be sure to do that.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes, Rob.
What about if you needed to leave for, like I had to leave for, ended up being like 6 years to be a caretaker for my mom. I was told to put that in the job section, actually,
Yes.
as a position, and say full-time caretaker with the duties of blah, 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 grooming, medication, stuff like that. Is that what you're?
I agree. If you were out doing that for a long time, I agree. I would list, caretaker, taking care of a loved one, and you list, 3 or 4 things, responsible for medication, doctor visits. I don't know if I list grooming, but scheduling for, financial, making sure that all the bills, making sure bills got paid. So yes, I would list that but then you also want to put the very last thing is that, the situation no longer requires my attention anymore or something,
Got it.
Maybe somebody else is now taking care of that parent, or you've put that person into a long-term care facility or something.
But if that was my most recent chunk of time, I would put that as from whatever date until current, put it as my most recent job.
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Listen,
All right.
everybody has aging parents nowadays. Unless
Yeah.
you're interviewing with a 20 or 30-year-old who probably hasn't had to deal with that, they may not get it. But any 40, 50, 60-year-old who you're going to interview with, they've all had parents. I've gone through it with my parents. I went through it with my in-laws. So, we've all gone through it. And if they're compassionate, if they have any compassion in their heart, it's, hey, to me, that's quite a role right there to be able to take time off to do that.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Great. All right. So we're going to talk about the key components of a resume. We're going to talk about headers, summaries, the key accomplishment area, which is an optional section. We'll talk about that in just a second. Professional experience, prior relevant experience, which is an optional field if you don't want to do that. Education, and then at the very end, software skills. So as a header, you want your name, and use the name you want to be called. If your name is Joseph Smith, but you want to be called Joe, put down Joe Smith. Now, if you have a hard to pronounce last name and people mispronounce your last name or mispronounce your first name, after your name in parentheses, put down the phonetic spelling of your last name. Like I would destroy Scott Beaudrew. I'm going to destroy your last name because I'm not going to pronounce that right. So if you want to make it easy for somebody to go, oh, they've taken the time to make it easy for me to learn how to pronounce their name. So if you've got a tough sounding first name or last name, just put that in parentheses. You want your phone number. You do not have to put cell phone and then the number, or home and phone. Just put a phone number. That's people figure most people have cell phones nowadays. They don't need to do anything else. As I mentioned at the very beginning, you want the largest city, state, and zip. So if you lived in Prosper, or if you lived in some small city outside of Atlanta, or some small city outside of the Chicago area, you may want to just list the largest metropolitan area that's close by, and then list the zip code. The reason for zip code listing is that a lot of recruiters, when they do a search, they'll want to, the default for most recruiters is 25 miles from where our office is, because they figure nobody wants to drive more than 25 miles to get there. So just sort of be aware of that. You want your email address and you want your LinkedIn address on there. Make sure, when you type an email address or a LinkedIn address into Microsoft Word, it automatically turns it blue and makes it a hyperlink. You want to undo that, okay? Because some systems, some of the ATS systems out there will not recognize hyperlinks. It'll freak them out. They don't know what to do with it, and nothing will get copied in. So if you're doing that, if you're using Microsoft Word, just do a right click, hover your mouse over the email address, do a right click, and then you should be able to, one of the options should be remove hyperlink. And then do the same thing with LinkedIn. If they want to get to it, somebody will just highlight that information and then paste it in, and they'll be able to, still be able to go find who it is. Your summary statement. Okay, your summary is not an objective. It's not what a company can do for me. It's what can I do for that company, okay? And tell me what it is that what you do. You want to be sure to include key areas of your expertise, and you should modify it for every application you send out. This is a section you modify. So on your master resume, that 3 lines underneath business analyst, that could be 6 or 8 or 12 lines on your master resume, and you eliminate the things that don't associate with the job title. Now, in this case, the job description is asking for a business analyst. If you've been a business analyst in the past, you want to put that down as a job title, and you want to make sure it's bold so that way it stands out that this is what you are. For areas of expertise, you could have 20 areas of expertise on your master resume, but only include 9. I say 9 is the way, and this is not a table. This is tab, agile methodologies, tab, Scrum, tab, requirement gatherings, new line, tab, Don't make it a table because a lot of ATS systems won't recognize a table, but just space it out. I
Is
like
that the-
9 because 9's not too many. I like 3 sentences as a maximum because people will read 3 sentences, but you get into 4, 5, 6 sentences, it's a block of text and people tune out by that. You want to make it easy for people to read. Now, on your areas of expertise, make sure those are things that you picked up out of the resume. And make sure that your top 3 skills are on the very top, over on the very left-hand side. Okay, so either place, make sure those are your top 3. If I interview you and I happen to see this on your resume, I'm going to say, so you've got 9 areas of expertise. Tell me what are your top 3. But don't tell me it's user-face design, developing test plans, and requirement gathering. Okay, because those aren't the top 3 things that you have listed on there. So, make sure that those top 3 things are what's in the job description, and that you make sure that you mention that if they ask that question. Okay, now this is an optional section called key accomplishments. If you're in sales, now, yes, it's true. Everybody on the call, if you're looking for a job, you're in sales because you're selling yourself. But if you're a true salesperson and you're out there because that's what you do, you may want to have an area that is, for people who are in business development and sales to talk about some of their key accomplishments. Now, you want to make sure these key accomplishments also appear underneath each of the jobs you do. So you're actually going to have these on your resume twice, because I want to know, well, where were you recognized as a top salesperson? Where did you identify new sales opportunity resulting in $250,000 in 2017? Okay, so make sure that you only have to do this if you need to, but if you do show these accomplishments, make sure you put them also in each of the job descriptions. All right, professional experience. Number one rule is chronological. We want the most current job on top, followed by the next one, followed by the next one. People talk about, oh, functional resumes. I need to do that to sort of hide what I'm doing. Don't do a functional resume, because most recruiters will just throw it in the trash. You're in the reject pile. You got to remember, when a recruiter is looking at a bunch of resumes, so the ATS system, you put in you filled out your online application, or you've mailed in whatever for them to do it. Recruiter has a pile of resumes now. They don't print them out anymore. Everything's on a TV screen or on a computer screen, and they're just going to sit there and they're going to look at it. They're going to spend 7 to 10 seconds looking at that and go, nope, nope. Oh yeah, here's a good one. Nope, it's functional. Nope, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know when they did it. And they're just looking to get through that pile to get 10 to 15 resumes that they'll then go back and look at some more and go, yeah, I want to call these 6 people. So that's what the goal is. So chronological is the way you want to go. Number 2 is you want to make sure you have parallel verbs. Now, what do I mean by that? So here they are. So if on a current job, the current ones are in red: analyze, ensure, serve. Okay. Now there's a past tense there, achieve, because that was something this person did between 2014 and present. But that goal, what they did, that program is over. That's something he did in the past, he or she did in the past. If you notice under company B, that's a past job. All of those action verbs have to be in past tense. Recruiters will throw your resume out if you have a misplaced tense. Remember, they're just looking for any reason to throw something out. Okay. Number 3, I recommend you use a one-line description of a company. I've been doing this since 2007, 2008, and every day I hear about a company. Somebody will mention a company that I have never, ever heard of before. So make sure on your resume that you list a one-line, just a little brief one-line that just tells somebody what it is, who that company is. Okay, because you then give them a reference, go, oh yeah, I heard that company, or maybe they don't even know that company name is. But put a little one-liner. It helps clarify, and you want to make it easy for somebody. Be sure to limit the number of bullet points per job. I say really no more than 5. Because if you have 4 or 5 good bullet points, you're going to answer anything you want. You know, the first job 5, the second job 4 or 5, the third job maybe 3, the fourth job, if you have 4 jobs listed, maybe no more than 2. But make sure they're really good bullet points. And you want to make sure the bullet points, most importantly here, that they focus on results. Very important that if you don't say what you've achieved, you don't tell me what you can do for me. You tell me what your job description was. So you want to limit the 5 or 6 bullet points per job. Your bullet points must focus on results. Very, very important. And make sure the bullets don't sound like a job description. I've repeated that now 3 or 4 times. I'm sorry. It's really important, okay? Because I see so many resumes and they read like a job description. They don't tell me the results, and results sell. So one of the things you can do on your resume, if you don't have results and you're not sure how to do this, play the so what game. I love this game. It's really great. So in this case, here's an example. Guided the next phase of brand evolution for a multimedia artist and managed film production and publishing. Okay, that sounds like a job description. Then tells me what you did. It doesn't tell me what you accomplished. So we asked the person, we said, so what? Well, their answer was, well, this increased the business opportunities, which led to 10 new commissions for my client. There's a result. Results sell. So we reworded the last sentence, or the sentence, to say increased business opportunities, including 10 new commissions for my client based on developing a full social media and PR strategy. So, you know, if you don't have a result, if you don't have something in there, a number, a dollar sign, a percentage, it makes a difference. I mean, you know, I was talking with somebody several years ago, and they said, well, I'm just an admin. I just answer the phone at the front desk and, you know, take care of the mail when it comes in. I don't do a whole lot. And I said, well, how many phone calls do you get a week? And she goes, oh, maybe 400 or 500 phone calls a week. 100 phone calls a day? That's pretty busy. How many people do you have to send that to? Well, there's 28 people who work here. Okay, well, there is a statement that tells me that you handle over 400 to 500 phone calls a week, distributing those to 28 different people. That tells me what you can do. That tells me what you could do for me if I needed to, instead of just saying I answer the phone. Okay. Okay, so what happens if you have multiple roles at one company? Because, you know, a lot of people, if you've been in a company for several years, you probably were promoted. You want to show that, but it's very important how you do that. So what you want to do is you want to list the company name once with the full range of dates. So you see there, Company B, a little line, small information technology consulting firm, from 2010 to 2014. Then you want to put the dates by each row in parentheses next to the row. Okay, so you have one date for all the jobs, and then you put the dates that you had for each of those roles at that company in parentheses next to the job. Okay, so this is the easy way to show that. If you were to put those dates out to the right justified, it could make you look like a job hopper. Oh, they were just there for 2 years, and then there was 2 years here, not realizing that, oh, they actually spent 4 years at that company. Okay, so once again, this makes it easier and cleans it up. And you know, you never know. Recruiter may go on, I'm looking for somebody who's been at a company for 5 to 10 years. And this is the way this is how you can show that. How do you handle companies that have changed names? You know, companies are changing names all the time. So you have a couple options here. The first one is give the current name of the company followed by the old name. So XYZ Incorporated, formerly ABC Company, or you can give the old name of the company first with the date of the M&A, ABC Company acquired by XYZ in 2008. We had a candidate, I remember a couple of years ago, who was on the call, and he said, well, I used to work for Campbell Soup, and then it was acquired by Company A, and then Company B then acquired it, and so we've changed names 3 times. What should I do? I said, I know Campbell Soup. Everybody knows what Campbell Soup is and who they are. I would list that and then put in parentheses, acquired by, and then list the name of the current company. Okay, because you want to list the most famous name that people would recognize. All right, education and software skills. Be sure to list your degree, major. You don't need to list when you got it. Put the school name, the city, and the state. Then you want to be able to list any software skills you have. Now, for software skills, if you're an executive, you don't need to list that you have Microsoft Word, Excel skills. Now, if you're an admin, you probably should list that. But any executive, if you're a CFO or somebody, you're in accounting, you don't need to list Microsoft Excel, because if you don't have Microsoft Excel skills, you're not probably a very good accountant, okay? But you do want to list those skills if they're on the job description, because that gives you another opportunity for a keyword match. We haven't talked about keyword matches, but that's the whole point. An ATS system is going to go out and try to find what the resumes that have the most number of keyword matches. So if it's on the job description, you want to list it on your resume. I'll show that in just a second.
Jeff?
Yes.
I'm sorry to keep interrupting. Would you prefer that we keep our questions until at the end of the lecture so that I'm not continuing?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. As far as education goes, every resume that I've ever looked at online, which is hundreds, if not thousands, they all have when they graduated. But you just said that you don't have to put that on there.
I don't think it's, I mean, if you graduated in the last couple of years, yes, you want to put it on there. If you just went back to school and you got your MBA, you want to show that, hey, I just got this currently.
That's not my situation. I mean, I graduated a long time ago, but aren't they the recruiters or hiring managers interested in the dates on like everything, like all of your employment, your education, when you did?
Well, if you're only showing 10 to 15 years of work experience, or maybe 20 years of work experience, you're not going to be showing, if they look at you or they look you up, they're going to find out. Listen, they're going to find out the information they want. At this point, I say you're putting down your degree and your major and you're without the date, because you don't want to, if they want to know it, they'll want to know it. If they don't want to know it, they're not going to ask. Okay. Yes, some recruiters will want to know because they're trying to figure out how old you are.
Exactly. And that's why I was asking, because the date of graduation will definitely give away my age. But I'm having to put dates on every job that I've had. So I guess they're gonna figure that out anyway, right?
Well, that's if you list, that's if you list all those jobs. Now I guess I didn't show the prior, for the jobs you list under prior relevant experience, those jobs that are 15 to 20 years out, that you just want to be able to list. All you do is you list the company name and the job title. You do not list when you work there.
Okay, let me ask you this. I'm sorry if I'm commandeering all the time here, but I just want to know that my last job was 7 years. The job prior to that was like 25 years. So those are the only two jobs that I'm listing on my resume. So,
but the job you had for 25 years, you probably had multiple job titles there.
No, I had the same job title.
Same job title for 25 years. Well, you list those two things and that's all you have to list.
But would I put that under previous experience, or
no? If you had a long-term job like that, if it's relevant to the job description, I would go ahead and list it and put down, you must have had some accomplishments if you were there for 25 years.
Yeah, but as far as the dates go, I'm just trying to get around having to be dated,
Listen, if they call you in for an interview, or if you have a Zoom interview, they're going to look at you and go, oh, well, you're not 20. You're not 30 years old. But Rob, I don't know what you look like because your camera's off, but for everybody else, I'm just saying though, that they're going to figure it out pretty quickly. Anybody who's look at me, they go, oh, you got gray in your beard, so you must be in your, 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
So, it's just going to happen at some point. They're going to realize that. So if they don't like you because of that, the point of your resume is for them to like you for the experiences and what you can bring to them. Remember, you're going to get hired because a company has a problem. You're a
Right.
problem solver. What can you do to solve their problems? This is the experience I have. I can solve your problem. I can help you fix this issue.
Uh-huh.
And as long as you stay in that mindset, as far as what can I do to help your company? What can I do to help you succeed? What can I help you as a manager do so that you succeed? You know, what do you need me to do so that you succeed in your role? That's, you keep that mindset. That's all they really, that's what they care about.
Yeah.
You know, if they're looking at years, you know, I mean, quite frankly, I mean, I don't know if there's any millennials on the call right now with us or whatever, but you know, those 20 and 30-year-olds, they have a totally different work ethic than people in their 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Because we were brought up differently to do things differently. So you can't satisfy every recruiter. Some are going to like it, some aren't going to like it. And listen, if your education is 30 years ago, that's meaningless, because you know there are kids that are graduating from college now who classes they were taking 4 years ago is totally meaningless to what they're doing nowadays, just because technology has changed and everything.
So you
you
don't
know,
think that would raise any eyebrows about that not putting a
if they
date
want to
on your
know,
education?
if they want to know, they'll ask.
Yeah.
Okay, if they want to know, they will ask. Okay, so I don't think it's important on a resume. I don't think it's important to put. If you're filling out a job application, you got to put down the real dates. Make sure that you put down what you really got a degree in. I was
Right.
putting, you know, last thing on here is if you don't have a degree, put something like school, city, state, and zip, or city and
Yeah.
state, major area of concentration, and the number of hours you have on there, showing that you haven't completed all those hours.
Okay.
So, you know, just be honest. Remember, there was that Notre Dame football coach who 2 weeks after he got hired, got fired because he fibbed on his resume.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
you want to tell the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So just wait till they ask then.
Yeah, if they may not even care. If it was 30 years, I could care less what you did 30 years ago. I mean, I know there was a gentleman I was on a call with and trying to help him, and you know, he's got 30 plus years of experience, but he doesn't have a college degree. And one of the requirements this company had was that he has to have want him to have a bachelor's degree. Well, to me, so, and he got kicked out of the process. He got the interview, but they went, well, do you have a college degree? Well, no, I don't. Well, I'm sorry, we can't proceed. And that
Oh,
was the stupidest thing, because here's a guy with 30 years of experience. That's a lot more experience than a college degree is going to tell you, who
yeah.
could do the job and not get hired.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wouldn't worry about those dates if it's been that long ago.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
So let's take a, you know, one of the things, you know, I've talked about several times is you want to make sure you align the resume to the job description. Very, very, very important. So on the left-hand side is a job description. On the right-hand side is the sample resume that we've been showing you. So the first thing on here is business analyst. So they're looking for business analyst. You want to make sure that you mention that on your resume, that's the title you put down, because if that's something you've done in the past. If you've never been a business analyst, don't mention it. But you know, and he puts it in a summary statement. And it's also one of the first, you know, company A and company B is his jobs that he's been a business analyst. Business requirements, improving processes, cross-functional, making sure that these keywords, you know, take a yellow highlighter, highlight your job description. You can put down what are the keywords, what are the important things that they're asking for, and then making sure they show up in your resume. You know, they're looking for Agile and Scrum. Okay, so those are under areas of expertise. They're looking for Visual Studio, which is a software skill, so it's down there under software skills. You know, multiple sources, user manuals, making sure that those things pop up a couple times on your resume. You know, business process flow charts. So it's, you know, making sure those keywords match, because that's what's going to get your resume to match a job description, especially if an ATS system is doing something like that. So remember, keywords are very, very, very important. Resumes are scanned, they're not read. The first time through, somebody will just, they're going through, they'll spend 7 to 10 seconds. They may see they may have gone through, they may say you have a UT alumni email address and they went to OU and go, boop, you're out. You know, they're just looking for you're applying for a job at AT&T and you have a Verizon email account. Boom, you're out, because, you know, they're just looking for any reason to knock down that pile of resumes to 10 or 15 decent resumes for them to then make phone calls and look at a little bit more. A resume won't get you a job, it only gets you a phone call. So you've got to practice your interviewing skills. How well you do that is what's going to get you your next job. And you never know why they called. Whenever anybody calls, whenever anybody calls you up and said, you know, I found you on LinkedIn, we've got to, you know, can we talk, whatever, thank them very much for calling and say, so what was it on my resume or what was it on my LinkedIn profile that made you reach out? Because you never know what sentence, what wording, what one word may be on your resume, or, you know, something on there, what they really, really need. So, and this is also a great question when you first have an interview with a hiring manager. So can you tell me, what are the 3 or 4 most important things you need me to accomplish in the first several months that I'm here? Because now you're finding out what's important to them, and that's what you want to talk about. So I love this thing, you know, thanks for calling. What was on my resume that made you reach out? Because now you know a little bit about what to focus on and what to talk about. All right, nobody sent me a resume, so we really won't look at a resume. Does anybody have any questions? Let me stop sharing here. I'll be glad to answer anybody's questions. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. Questions? Oh, you know what? Let me put.
I have a question.
Yeah, hold on. Let me put in the chat window. I want to put in the resume. Give me 1 second here. Oops. Don't want to send this to myself. I want to send this to everybody. I have a sample resume. This is a resume that we talked about. I'll send that. I also will put a sample T cover letter in there. If you'd like to be able to see something like that. And the last thing I'm going to put in there, if anybody wants to download, are 185 powerful verbs that will make your resume stand out. So for all your bullet points and things, I sort of recommend that you start out your bullet points with an action verb, because that'll help draw people in. So let's see, who had a question? Rob.
Yes. Now I forgot what it was.
Okay.
It was on. Let somebody else ask one, and I'll think of it.
Okay.
I got busy downloading your stuff here.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
This is Noel.
I know.
How you doing? I have what I call a cosmetically appealing resume, one that you would throw up on if I said this is what I was going to submit for the system to read it. It violates, I think, most of what you say. I know it's cosmetic appealing, I think, but is it, and I would never submit this online, but if I was in person, and would it be confusing if I handed them that version versus what they've seen online?
No, tell me what line of profession are you in?
Accounting, Bean County.
Accounting. Okay. Okay. What I showed you today in the resumes that, you know, I popped into the chat window and stuff, those are primarily for an ATS system. How to get yourself through an ATS system. Very plain and simple. Yes, you can have a little bit fancier resume that you hand deliver, or you give, even if you were to have a conversation and when you follow up, you could send them that nicer looking resume, because you'd be surprised how bad an ATS system will make your resume look if when they're looking at things. So there's nothing wrong with submitting a decent looking resume if you're talking to somebody directly. I would say make sure that you always do it as a PDF file. Okay. Don't ever send a Word document, because the problem with a Word document is that if you were to send it to me, your printer, there's a 99% chance that the printer I have is different than your printer, and it's going to make my margins default differently. So nothing's going to line up the same. So I would recommend that you always send us a PDF file. That way you know that what they get will look exactly as you want them to see that. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with sending a nicer looking resume. And if you go in for an interview, you take resume copies with you, and it can be the nicer looking resume.
Okay. Thank you.
Jeff,
Yes.
oh, was somebody else about to ask a question?
No, go ahead.
I had read that I listened to some of your other YouTube videos, and I had read that you should always use a PDF, because once you lock it into PDF, nothing can change. You know, whether you're sending it to an ATS or a recruiter or a hiring manager, once you lock it down into PDF, it can't get screwed up with the formatting.
Well, I mean, they do make PDF programs that will allow you to cut and paste and do stuff over a PDF file. But yes, I always recommend whenever you send a resume or a bio or anything to anybody, always send it as a PDF file, because that way it will look like it's supposed to look.
Okay. All right.
Good. Anybody else have any questions? All right, let me share a couple.
No questions, but a comment on that T cover letter.
Yes.
It is also I'm using that T format, meaning here's what here I put out some of the key things in the job description, and then across them, and I put here's what I've done, and I've done it this week, as a matter of fact, and I've gotten a lot of compliments on. It makes it easier for people to say, when they say, tell me a little bit about yourself, I can tie it back to that, and it's really worked out extremely well.
Right. If you can send a T cover letter, it always will. If you send a cover letter, it should always be a T cover letter. It'll make things easier. If you were not able to download any of this information, please just send me an email to resume@careerdfw.org. Tell me what you're looking for. I will get all these documents to you. But you got to tell me what you're looking for, because I get emails to this email address all the time. So just let me know what you're looking for, and I will get that information to you this weekend. Career DFW, Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Please join us tomorrow morning at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group meeting. Being the first Friday of every month, we do open forum. We'll talk about whatever questions you have about your job search. You're able just to ask us and offer other people and give people your opinions and stuff. So whatever it is you'd like to know or talk about. Next Tuesday, for LinkedIn Tuesdays, Locke Alderson will be with us to talk about how to use LinkedIn for job hunting, strategies to get results. Next Wednesday, we hope to have a practice interview. If you'd like to practice your interviewing skills, just go out to dallaspickcrew.com. And then next Thursday, being the second Thursday of the month, we will talk about networking. Our speaker will be Jay Arbetter, and he's got a great little motivational story about how he networked, how he got to where he is, and what he's doing. So you're welcome to join us next Thursday at 1 o'clock for that. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel. On the Career USA YouTube channel, just click on playlist. I have almost 400 videos up there right now. But if you click on playlist, it puts it down to 7 different lists, and then pick the one you want. And then down below where you see that red arrow, click view full playlist, and then up will come a list with the different speakers and topics. And you can go pick whichever video it is you'd like. It'll take a couple hours for this video to get uploaded, but I will have this uploaded later this afternoon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just a comment. These are great commercials, and I've made note. But I'll tell you what really prompted me. I had not planned on being here today, but because I got the auto email,
Yes.
that's what caused me to say, oh, I have time tomorrow. I'm going to join tomorrow. So just FYIs, those emails are effective.
Great. Thank you very, very much. So for anybody not receiving emails about our workshops, if you'd like to get on that email mailing list, just send an email to Career USA, the plus sign, subscribe at groups.io. You'll never be spammed, but what you will get is the topic of the day, the title of the day, and most importantly, the Zoom link of the day. That way you can just grab your lunch and click on the link, and you're back and you can join us every day. So please remember, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have no full or part-time employees. Everything I've done over the last 14 years has been as a volunteer. I've never gotten paid to do any of this. I'm just here to help you land your next great opportunity. So thank you very much for joining us today, everybody. Have a great Thursday afternoon. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow morning. If not, we'll see you one day next week.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.